So today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. We're looking at how a set of ancient principles is actually becoming this super powerful modern tool in the fight for a sustainable future. Yeah, we're talking about a massive industry that's right at a major turning point. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so this whole story really kicks off with just a massive number. We're talking $2.5 trillion. I mean, just let that sink in. That's what the global halal food and beverage market is expected to be worth by 2028. Halal meaning food that's permissible under Islamic law. This isn't some niche market. It's honestly one of the fastest growing sectors in the entire global economy. But, you know, it's not just about the cash. This is where it gets really interesting. We're looking at a huge economic force, for sure, but one that's driven by a core set of ethical standards. And what's happening now is that those standards are starting to resonate with people way, way outside of its traditional base. And that brings us to a really powerful question, right? What if this massive, fast-growing industry, what if it also holds a key to a more sustainable future for all of us? That's really the core idea we're going to unpack here. Because look, let's be real. Just like the rest of the modern food industry, the halal sector is up against this huge twin challenge. How do you keep growing and feeding more people while at the same time protecting the planet that we all rely on? It's a massive dilemma. And you can see that challenge broken down right here. First, you've got to feed a growing global population. That's a huge pressure. Then you have to deal with climate change. On top of that, you're tackling resource depletion. We're using things up faster than they can replenish. And finally, there's the ongoing battle with environmental pollution. It's a perfect storm of challenges, really. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. It says the industry desperately needs professionals who can basically speak both languages. People who get the ins and outs of halal compliance, but who also deeply understand environmental stewardship. It's about bridging that gap. So the big question is, how do you even do that? Well, it all starts with a shift in thinking. It's about moving beyond just ticking the boxes of compliance and really embracing something much deeper, a more holistic principle. Okay, this right here is super important to understand. On one hand, you have halal. That's the foundation, right? It means permissible. It's focused on things like the source of ingredients and making sure there are no prohibited substances. But then, on the other hand, you have this concept of Tayyib. Now, Tayyib means wholesome, and it expands the whole idea to include ethics, social responsibility, and taking care of the environment. So it's not just about what you're eating, it's about how it got to your plate. I mean, that's a really powerful idea, isn't it? But ideas are one thing. How do you actually make it happen in the real world? Well, it turns out there are some pretty cool new tools being built right now to do exactly that. And here's a great example, the Think Plus Halal ESG app. What this does is it takes those broader Tayyib principles and integrates them using something called an ESG framework. If you haven't heard of it, ESG just stands for environmental, social, and governance. It's basically a way to measure a company's total impact, not just its profit. And this app builds that thinking right into the halal certification process itself. It's a game changer. And the engine behind it is this thing called the 8P assessment framework. We're looking at some of the core P's here, and you can see how it goes so much deeper than just the product. It asks the tough questions, like what is the company's ethical purpose? Are their processes sustainable? Are they using less water? How are they treating their people? And of course, the big one, what is their actual impact on the planet? And the best part, the whole is designed to be super simple. You basically just input the client data, pick a professional template, and bam, you instantly get a report. It takes all this complex assessment work and turns it into a straightforward, actionable process. And this really shows you that whole journey from start to finish. You go from a professional, deep in the weeds, analyzing all this complex data on a laptop, to that same person proudly holding up a clear, polished, and certified report. It's all about connecting the dots, from raw data to a real, tangible result. So here's the bottom line, and it's a big one. This isn't just about feeling good or doing the right thing. It's actually about good business. When companies adopt this kind of framework, it opens up this whole new frontier where doing good for the planet and for people actually drives profitability. Purpose and profit, they go hand in hand. And don't just take my word for it. The numbers absolutely back this up. Businesses that are using this kind of approach are seeing incredible results. We're talking a 30% jump in getting new clients, a 25% better upsell rate, and, get this, a 40% gain in just being more efficient. That right there is the concrete business case for sustainability. And it's not just about the immediate cash flow. The long-term strategic advantages are massive. You get to stand out from the competition. You're perfectly positioned to meet that growing demand from consumers who want ethical products. Plus, you align with global sustainability goals, which helps you attract other eco-conscious partners. It's a win-win-win. And this is what that future can look like. You walk into a space that's modern, clean, and just feels sustainable. The brand's commitment to the planet isn't some footnote on their website. It's part of the entire experience. And that's how you build real trust with customers, through total transparency. So, that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. As all of us, as consumers, demand more and more transparency about where our food comes from, maybe this isn't just a story about the halal industry anymore. Maybe the future of all food is one where it's not just enough for it to be permissible, but where it absolutely has to be purposeful. Something to think about, right?